This video, as well as all other future videos in the series, contain massive spoilers for everything Xenoblade as well as Xenogears and Xenosaga. I recommend at least playing all the Xenoblade games, especially Xenoblade 3, before watching this video, and knowing the history of Xenogears and Xenosaga's development will be useful too. It's also best to watch this series in order, with this episode being the starting point. That's all, so enjoy the video. The Xeno series, whether it's Xenogears, Xenosaga, or Xenoblade, each game tells a similar story. One of people fighting to change their world for the better, to leave their legacy on it, and to pass it forward for the future to maintain. However, for being a series focused on massive change, the games are ironically all pretty similar, especially in the symbols and motifs used. That's not going to be the case for the next Xeno game though, as I have reason to believe the series as a whole is going through a revolution with the next entry. And no, that's not just because Monolith has basically confirmed it in interviews in the special edition. Welcome to Xenoblade Chronicles A to Z. Welcome to Xenoblade Chronicles A to Z, the series where I'm going to analyze different parts of the Xenoblade games, corresponding to different letters of the alphabet with each video. In this episode, N, I'll be examining Noah's path through Xenoblade 3 before becoming Mobius, as N, and later as the character we actually follow throughout the game. In particular, I want to focus on specific actions and decisions he makes, as well as some things he says that signify the massive evolution for the series, as I mentioned earlier. Finally, towards the end of this analysis, I'll reveal what I found to be the main theme that Noah's journey represents in the story, which will be necessary to understand the next two episodes in the series. Get ready, because this video is going to be a mass of ideas, random details, and similarities I've noticed, and some kinda ridiculous theories too. I've done my best to structure this video essay with some rough chapter outlines, which are also timestamps on the timeline. So hopefully this won't just end up as a heap of words thrown around by the end. Find some meaning in what I present to you. That's all I'm saying. In order to understand the present and make predictions for the future of the Xenoblade games, we need to start by looking at their past. In this case, we can look at Noah's past before becoming Mobius as a representation of what the Xeno series was before Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xeno as a whole originates from its master plan, Perfect Works, that Tetsuya Takahashi, its creator, devised for Xenogears. While Gears ultimately wouldn't continue on at Square past its first game, Perfect Works as a general outline for what Xeno is would be resurrected twice more with Xeno Saga on the PS2 and Xenoblade on the Wii U, Switch, just, all modern Nintendo consoles. In a way, the old Xeno series was pretty similar to the cycle of life in Ionios, with a new game being born only for it to die again a few years later. Imagine that feeling, completing work on a massive project with thousands of hours put in, and suddenly you're sent back to where you started and have to do it all over again. It becomes a cycle of despair, breaking down your soul doing the same thing with the same end result, with no satisfying end. If this is starting to sound familiar, you're probably now thinking about Noah's own past. He walked the same road that the whole Xeno series did, trying again and again, but losing what, or who, he cared about, reaching a similar end each time. However, what if Monolith had the chance to finally make the game they had been trying to create this whole time? Similarly, what if Noah too was suddenly able to fulfill his wish of living a full life with Mio after seeing her die in so many past lives? What if you had the opportunity to just pause time, and had an infinite amount of it to fulfill some wish or desire, or some goal? The offer would be tempting, and this brings us to a pivotal moment in both Xeno and Noah's history. I present to you the theater. This single room, the theater, is one of the most important and symbolic locations in this game. It's where Noah makes a decision that alters not only his fate, but Ionios' too. His decision also represents the choice made for the Xeno series, which have an intertwined destiny. Noah is presented as seemingly two options, two roads he can keep on with for life. He either continues as he has, starting the cycle over and over, or he gets an endless now with Mia brought back from the dead. The Xeno series, now on Xenoblade after Gears and Saga, is against a similar crossroads. It either goes the same way the previous Xeno entries did, failing to reach a proper conclusion, or it stagnates to avoid dying out yet again. In the end, the decision is made. Noah gets to live forever and becomes Mobius, and the Xeno series goes on to get multiple entries and only grows more successful. However, with this decision, both Noah, now N, and Xenoblade lose something, a chance to innovate and expand beyond the confines of their original form. N never grows, only shrinking into the despair-filled, insane character we see him as throughout a majority of Xenoblade 3's story. And the future Xenoblade games, whether it's X, 2, and even 3 to some degree, are mostly just concepts and ideas from the original Perfect Works used to make Xenogears, but recycled and reused once again. Side note, the last part may seem harsh on the Xenoblade games, but I do generally believe that in their relative success, the games also relied increasingly more on the plans laid out by previous entries. Maybe I'll make a video on that sometime, but back to topic for now. This transition to N and Xenoblade, for Noah and the Xeno series respectively, concludes the first major chapter of this video. Both Noah and Xeno followed the roads they did out of a fear of failure, that all they did might end up being for nothing. To escape this existence where they could never possibly advance or grow, they ultimately chose paths that let them live and prosper, but at the cost of never actually going through an evolution and never changing as much as they wanted to in the first place. However, what if someone, or maybe something, threatened this way of life, this endless now? The endless now. It exists mostly as a gap between Noah's past life and the core events of Xenoblade 3, meaning not much is actually known about what takes place here. As such, this chapter is going to be more speculative and based much more on theories rather than concrete evidence. This section also doesn't serve as much of a greater meaning to the overall message found in this video. It's more of a transitioning piece, while also explaining how there can be two Noahs in Xenoblade 3's campaign. However, that doesn't mean we know nothing at all. Rather, the events from the Future Redeemed DLC can actually connect this theory from the start to the end, as well as providing a lot of important characters for later, especially Alpha. Remember it for future episodes. As for N, there's not actually much that needs to be said about him here, but remember for later that he joins Matthew and the Liberators in defeating Alpha. Speaking of Matthew, he's the character I want to focus on here, because I believe he's actually the reason there are two Noahs in Xenoblade 3, N and the Noah we play as. Basically, I think that Matthew's determination to defeat Alpha and protect Ionios awakened something in N. Maybe like a long-dormant part of Ouroboros that was buried when he became Mobius. This hope, yeah, that's the right word. This hope was so strong, and it was able to split from N and become a completely new person, a Noah born of hope. Or at least, that's my main theory here. It goes well with the line where Noah says to N before they unite again that he himself is hope. Another possibility is that when N used his powers to fuse Matthew's party into a massive Ouroboros at the end of Future Redeemed, that also awakened something and created a second Noah, since he used those powers again. Also just want to throw in here quickly, this scene right before the credits roll at the end of Future Redeemed, it's just, that's so cool. It's almost in-universe foreshadowing in a way, because everyone playing Future Redeemed probably already knows about Noah, but the line almost acts as a heads up for N himself that he'll be the one stopping the Endless now. N does even fuse with the Noah of Hope at the end of Xenoblade 3, so it does also directly address him in a sense. No other reason for the scene, just thought it was interesting and fit well here, so moving on now. Either way, I still have no idea how the theory before really works. There's also the fact that Mia was cloned when she isn't even shown in Future Redeemed. Maybe a second Noah simply can't exist without a second Mia, like both have to exist otherwise neither can. This could make sense, since their lives are clearly fated to meet multiple times, as shown with them meeting in each past flashback and again in the present. But it's still mostly me pulling at strings there. Anyways, bringing this back to how N represents the Xeno series, I think the moment where the second Noah splits off from him is just representative of Xenoblade 3 as a whole compared to Xenoblade 1 and 2. While still sharing a lot of the core concepts of the previous games and perfect works, Xenoblade 3 still has some defining aspects that set it apart from the other games. I personally think it's like a modernization of the Xenoblade formula, is really how it felt when I started playing. Things like the menus and a lot of decisions made with the presentation of cutscenes and gameplay, like cutscenes switching immediately into boss battles, for example. It all feels much more like a modern AAA game that you'd find on a more modern console. That's a topic for a different video maybe, but that small evolution is present, and I believe it actually signifies a lot more than we might have first realized for how future Xenoblade games will play. Additionally, there are also some important cutscenes which are more obvious that there will be massive changes in the future. Let's cover those next. I want to now focus on some key scenes that really started the planning for this video as a whole, and are key to forming ideas on what Monolith Soft's message is for Xenoblade 3, the entire series, and the future. Before I introduce the first scene, I think it's necessary to discuss symbols in the series. In particular, the fact that each game, save X, has a protagonist wielding a red sword. This symbol's been used 3 times now, kind of 4, with the Shulk and the Monado, a red blade created by a god that manipulates the ether around it, Rex with the Aegis, specifically Pyro's sword, which was created by the architect and also controls ether, and Noah with his red sheath on the Lucky 7, a blade created of origin metal that also, to a lesser extent, manipulates the air around it. I mean, how else would you slice a billion times with one blade at once? Anime logic? In addition, You could also count Matthew's fists and Future Redeemed as a weapon in the same category, because they're red, obviously. And then they also have the Aegis core, and I think they might be made out of origin metal as well. But I mean, they're not really a sword, and I feel like in Future Redeemed, the sword at the end that N has is probably more important, but Matthew's fists still have some similarities. There are also a lot of shared details between the swords mentioned before, like them having power over the matter and world itself, as well as being created by the creator of each world, and well, being red. However, each sword also ends up being a central part of the story it's from. One could even argue that each game revolves around these red blades, whether it's all the powers and mystery of the Monado, the long and arduous journey of getting the Aegis to Elysium, or Lucky 7 being made of origin metal, which the whole world of Ionios literally centers around. So what if this sword was removed? What if there was no more red sword, no more all-powerful blade that controls the flow of the story? This is the situation that I believe this cutscene at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where Noah throws away Lucky 7 in its red sheath, is creating. Throwing away the most iconic idea, what many people will think of first when they hear Xenoblade, is a massive warning for what's to come, something unlike anything the Xeno series has done before. However, that's not the only scene that lends credence to the idea that the next Xeno game will really break free from series traditions. In the same cutscene, though much later, right before the credits roll, Noah makes a final monologue that I think leaves a very powerful ending message and mark on what Xenoblade 3 is trying to tell us, and the journey to where the games are today. The scene goes something like this.
This is the truth of our world. Memories melt in the morning light, and then a new day begins. Roads stretch out before us. So many paths. Which do you choose? That's up to you. Sometimes you might run astray. You'll stop, maybe cry in frustration. But you know, that's all right. For the roads, they go on without end. So look up, face forward, toward your chosen horizon. And just walk on.
Now, what does this speech mean? That's the question. Just contained in Xenoblade 3's story, it acts as a final summary on what the game's main message is. That life is made up of the different paths we choose, or roads, as Noah uses, and that even when things get tough, we just need to look forward and keep going, accepting that what happened has happened, and moving on. However, I believe it could also be a message from Tetsuya Takahashi after working on the series for so long. The scene essentially describes how working on Xenogears, Xenosaga, and Xenoblade must have felt like. Trying to keep moving forward with all the setbacks and frustrations and challenges developers had to go through for each entry. Especially now, with this trilogy of Xenoblade, as well as Perfect Works, reaching its end. It's a powerful message that even with all these challenges, everything can turn out alright in the end if you keep going, and learn from your past failures and struggles, and keep goals for the future. Or I don't know, you just use the power of friendship or something. That's what the Xenoblade characters always do. This next scene carries a similar message, and wouldn't mean much else on its own compared to the previous cutscene. However, the context of the scene, being right before Noah chooses the Endless Now, is what makes it so interesting. The scene I'm referring to is this one, where Noah gives his son a final piece of advice before passing away. In particular, I want to focus on this part here where Noah says,
Things will get tough. You'll be hurt. You have a whole host of things to go through as you head into the future. A time might come when you'll be on the verge of giving up. But you have to keep going. Make friends. Keep them close to you, always. That's what Daddy and Mummy did.
As I said, the message of the scene is pretty similar to the last one. Even when life gets as hard as it can get, you can't give up on what you're trying to accomplish. It's when you realize that Noah becomes Mobius immediately after this, that this clip becomes so much more important. Why would Noah give up on everything if he literally just told his son to never give up on his life and future? The answer ultimately lies in the impossible choice Noah was forced to make, either losing Mio or becoming his own enemy. In the end, the pressure and despair was too much, and he gave in. Contrast this to the previous scene, and Noah's message to his son moments before death becomes one of sadness and desperation, whereas his monologue at the end is now more clearly one of hope and resolution. Finally, we have the moment where Noah and N fuse back as one person, and N takes the middle road, effectively ignoring either of Zed's options and deciding his own future. This scene essentially just represents N finally letting go of the past he was holding on to, and instead striving for the future once more, as he did when he was Ouroboros. Now, he's able to join back with Noah, who actually made the decision to walk this road much earlier. In the memory space between chapters 5 and 6, where Noah sees his past lives, that's where he decides to keep fighting for the future, even with Mio gone, but obviously not really. N is now given the choice to protect the future as well, almost providing a resolution and proper ending to his long life, which is also pretty similar with Xenoblade 3 as a whole compared to the rest of the series. Previous games like Xenogears and Saga, much like Noah's past lives, never had a satisfying conclusion. Instead, they were often cut short. Now though, N is finally able to reach a proper end on his road through life, and Xenoblade 3 provides a fulfilling sense of closure for the Xenoblade games released so far, and even for older Xeno and Perfect works too. Now, both are able to move on to the future, while being able to come to terms with their pasts, which actually perfectly summarizes what I'm going to explain next. With this video now coming to its end, I want to wrap up all the ideas mentioned before, and really make clear my interpretation of Noah's journey and Xenoblade 3's message for the future of the series. First though, if you've watched this far into the video, I just want to say thanks. Seriously, I mean it. This video has taken a long time to work on. I don't even know right now how long yet, as I'm only writing and re-recording the script right now, but it means a lot to me that you're interested enough to watch. Anyways, back to wrapping up this video. Let's go back to the theater, where Noah is faced with these two roads. I remember after getting through this part of the game back, over a year now when I first played it, I wondered why he didn't just walk in between, forging his own path. While N does later walk the middle path when he fuses back with Noah, as you saw in the last scene that I analyzed, the only reason that happens is because the Noah we follow takes that road first, just not at any specific moment. By going against his previous lives, as the Noah of N's hope, not following through on the same mistakes his previous selves made, like choosing the endless now or abandoning his friends, Noah indirectly creates that third middle path that I thought about. If the endless now, and therefore the road on the right, represents an obsession over the past, and the path on the left restarting all over and abandoning the past for the future, the middle road Noah and N ultimately takes shows that to truly live and succeed is to live with both the past and future. Recognize your mistakes and grow from them, but keep goals and a vision for the future. Don't abandon one or the other. This is what Noah's story is supposed to convey. That we shouldn't try to dwell on any single moment or success of our lives, nor should we try to abandon everything we have accomplished. Rather, we must keep moving forward even when life is only a struggle. Considering the ups and downs the Xeno series went through, I think this is a fitting message for the game that's supposed to put an end to the perfect work style once and for all, or so I think. Not to say that future Xeno games won't be similar at all, but I do believe, and hope, that this series will take its own advice, to take what it's learned and keep going on, with the past to the future. Hey guys, Xanon here, and thanks for watching this video. This has become my largest project I've ever done for this channel, maybe even one of the largest things I've ever worked on at all, actually. This section here is just going to be more of a log of some of the things I've done while working on this project. I originally started this video all the way back in late September to early October, though I did have plans for it a few months before then. It's crazy how much work has actually gone into this single video compared to everything else I've done for this channel. Not even just the individual parts of the production process, like video editing, are larger, but just that there were so many more steps compared to any other video I've made. Not to mention the fact that I want to make this a whole series. I'm thinking the next 2 episodes will be about Alpha and Z, since they represent the A and Z in the title of this series. After that, I have some ideas for other letters, like S for Shania, since her actions in Chapter 5 and 6 gave me a pretty interesting idea for a video. I might also make some videos analyzing other things from other Xenoblade games, like the letter B, meaning blades, like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Also maybe some stuff relating more directly to Xenogears and Xenosaga. As for other plans for the future, I have other video ideas relating to Nintendo games, mostly Xenoblade stuff, but I'll probably also start making videos on computer games soon, like on PC. My focus will still be on RPGs, of course, but since I plan on building a computer soon, I'll be able to make more videos on a lot of other games that I'm interested in that aren't on the Switch. For example, while working on this video, I made community posts like a couple months back now, where I included screenshots from a different game, Scarlet Nexus. It's a pretty underrated RPG and I would highly recommend checking it out if you like cyberpunk and sci-fi aesthetics, as well as action RPGs. I want to eventually make videos on it, of course, especially comparing the main antagonist of that game to N from Xenoblade 3. They're both pretty similar, and it'll be fun to compare their similar motives and lives. I might also make videos on computer hardware, because I'm interested in that, but I'm not sure about it yet. Anyways, that's long enough for me to say everything I want to say, so I just hope you enjoyed the video. Something like a comment, a like, or a subscription would be really appreciated with how long this video took to make. But either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next video.